All right, I want to get straight into this now. The Ukraine versus Russia situation that the world is faced with is quite serious. Now, I'm going to give you my thoughts on what I think is going to happen with this. Now, it's a situation, a conflict that keeps developing every day. And it's been many years in the making, and now it has culminated in a very tense standoff between a lot of European countries and Russia, and has involved the US and is making a lot of people nervous because of the chance that something could get to a point where there is no backing down from any side and involves a quite serious regional conflict that breaks out into a European war and then possibly a world war. Now, no one wants that. This is why the situation could escalate, and it could escalate very quickly, because there's a lot of operatives that work for Central Intelligence for the US and for European allies that are delivering information on Russia's intentions, or what they claim are Russia's intentions. Now, there's two sides to this. There's the way Ukraine is connected to Russia and the way it used to be a part of the old Soviet bloc, and then as the Soviet bloc collapsed, Ukraine broke away and gained its independence in the early 90s, and has forever, from that day forward, tried to build friendly relations with the US and Western allies. Now, when you look at things, you look at the Ukraine from the Russian president's perspective, and that they see Ukraine as a part of the empire of Russia. And that was probably, the main motivation behind the Russian annexation of Crimea from the Ukraine in 2014, which, almost brought the world on the brink of war. Now, it could have very easily happened back then, but it didn't. Now, there was a lot of criticism that said, that maybe the West was too soft on, the Russian president for not making much of a move on this, or put a lot of pressure. Like, a lot of people said that there should have been a lot of pressure put on Russia for their annexation of Crimea back in 2014. Now, why this is serious? Because you got, intelligence agencies saying that, there are a lot of planned things, that have now been exposed that allegedly that Russia were going to plan, like, a false flag operation. There was, going to be a harmful act disguised, as something else. So that way, that's what the West is claiming. So that way, it would give apparently Russia, a reason to want to invade Ukraine. There's a lot of brinkmanship going on. I don't know. This is a very complex chess game that's being played. You got to look at it from both sides of the fence. Now, there's about 130,000 troops on the border, the Russian border, that the Russians share with Ukraine. Do I think that, what the US is doing, could cause the conflict to really step up? Well, the US have sent 1,000 troops to Romania, 2,000 troops to Poland, and NATO really want to get Ukraine on board with, as a NATO country. Now, I think this is the contention from the Russians. This is why they really want to make a move on Ukraine because of this. Because, once NATO joins, they link in Ukraine as a NATO ally, then there'll be a huge military build-up right on the border of Russia. So do I think that this could be a big part in what's causing a lot of this? Yes. Now, Turkey's already started selling drones to eastern Ukraine, and they want to build a drone manufacturing plant in the country, Turkey being a NATO ally. Now, Russia, in turn, are going to start very serious drills between the 10th and 20th of Feb in Belarus. So, Russia and Belarus are going to, have their joint military operations going on. Now, lawmakers have already designed sanctions to put in place against Russia should they need to, and they're at 95% completion. There's some things that they, are not agreed upon yet, but it looks like lawmakers in the US have bipartisan support, in the House and Senate to really have sanctions placed on Russia should they need to. Now, will sanctions hurt the Russian president? Well, the Russian president and Xi Jinping are already making moves to really counter the sanctions should they need. So this is something that, has a lot of history, a lot of planning has gone involved, and it's sort of like a culmination of years of planning between, two competitors, and it's quite a serious thing. Turkey, France, and Germany are all, reaching out and have reached out and are continuing to reach out to the Russian government. There has to be some type of resolution on this. There has to be a lot of compromise made in the next few months if Europe and everyone else is to move past this stalemate. Now, do I see a major conflict? Well, I don't feel that, there's quite enough US troops being sent into Ukraine, or, even though the US is selling weapons to Ukraine, do I think that, this will kick off in the next month? Yes and no. I think that, more than likely nothing will happen. I think there will just be a continual build-up of troops in and around Eastern Europe. US and Britain will continue installing and supporting and building up alliances and power bases all around Eastern Europe, and NATO will continue to, do what it does best, and Russia will continue building up forces along its border with Ukraine. I think in a few years, yes, there is definitely a chance that this will kick off. I think it's inevitable because, there are, plans to increase the Allied troops over the next 3 years in and around Eastern European countries. This will reach a very serious conflict unless, of course, things change. Vladimir Putin, he's, 69 years of age. Maybe if something, he, who knows what will happen. But if he steps down or, someone else leads Russia, then maybe this might be averted. But while the current Russian president is in power, do I think that anything will change? Highly unlikely. I think this is headed for quite a serious clash, but I think it will happen in the next 3 years. I don't think it'll happen in the next month. A lot of people are saying that after the Winter Olympics in China that things will kick off. Yes, I think America would be sending a lot more troops if that was the case. I think they would be, instead of sending 1,000 troops to Romania, they'd be sending 50,000 troops. Ukraine is planning that, yes, they're planning to build up their, they want 100,000 troops built up in their country in the next 3 years. So I think that, it is quite a serious situation. Though the fact that America, have sanctions ready to go, I think that, that could end up being the course of action if the Ukraine is, invaded by Russia. I think that maybe there might be, indirect support given to Ukraine, and that they will engage Russian troops, and it will be a drawn out and bloody conflict if it did kick off in the next month. Do I see this starting a world war? Well, that's, always a possibility. Anyway, let me know what you think. I'm Emcee Rapology. Quite a serious European situation. Let me know what you think.